overlords don't see that if you destroy the middle class, there is no consumption. And people don't consume. The overlords, sure, they have CEO record bonuses, but that's not only going to last for a couple of years because there's nobody there to buy anything.
Al, this is a planned post-industrial economy. You're saying they don't see what they're doing. I can give you the handbooks, the white papers where this has been planned for at least 50 years, what we're entering. It's called a post-industrial world. They hate the middle class. The ultra-rich have always sought to destroy it, so there's a giant underclass and a tiny group on top. And all I'm saying is, versus the rhetoric and reality, Obama has continued all of the Bush policies. But
right. I agree. But what's Obama up against? An established, entrenched oligarchy, okay? So, from community organizer to, like, trying to do what's right versus these satanic people, it's a pretty difficult task. I'm going to cut him some slack for right now, okay? Like, I just hope they don't inject the alien bloodline DNA into him as well, so he acts in accordance with his overlords. But he's putting up as much of a fight as he can, and, I'll leave it at that. I mean, really, what we're dealing with is not government at all, but, like, really short-sighted. Look, this is what makes me think that 2012 is an actual reality. It's not the Mayans and some, like, crazy paintings of a guy in a spaceship on a tomb or anything. It's the fact that, okay, here we go. Here's a guy that has a website named Darren McClung, and it's called 2012 Supplies, okay? And this guy is selling things, survival kits, for the masses. Yet he has a really hard time getting these supplies because the government keeps buying it up all each month, okay? So what does that tell you? I mean, you've seen the movies, like anything from Contact to Armageddon to, 2012, whatever. The government knows something's going on.
Yeah, what's going on is they're buying all
the supplies.
Yes, they are. They've been building a giant COG system for 60 years, underground bases, NORAD, Cheyenne Mountain, Mount Weather, all of it, Site R. They are been training the military for 2012 for at least 15 years for mass gun confiscations, riots, total shutdown, because they have planned the implosion of the global economy to build the global government on top of it that we will pay our carbon taxes to. They are destroying the planet through economic warfare. The globalists took over to shut off.
I have a bone to pick with you on that, too. Okay, so the ions from space are coming, and they're warming up our planet. We're not helping it. Listen, it now reached 7 billion people today on this planet, okay? By 2012, it'll be 7.5 billion people. That's too many people for the resources, okay? It's like the same thing as the dinosaurs. They didn't have a global positioning and satellites and rockets and all that to destroy an asteroid, but they were overpopulated. And when they're overpopulated and they have no other skills, they're going to go down.
The dinosaurs were overpopulated now?
Yes. The top 1% have all their bunkers and all that. That's why it's a giant cash grab now. Fossil fuel is just a completely irrelevant thing right now. Like I said, Bush and Woolsey have their solar panel houses and generators waiting for the apocalypse because the 1% will survive. And then we'll have a new society after 6 to 7 billion people die in the next apocalypse, and they'll have their cushy home, and then they'll start another system the same as the one that we have.
Al, do you want to know my view on this? Because I've really studied it in depth, and I know you've done some studying and talking about the New World Order before I was, so I understand you've got some deep political and geopolitical ideas here, but they have implanted through the fake Christian groups that it's the end of the world, Jesus is coming back, so stand down to corruption. They've used the 2012 stuff for 30 years, implanted as a self-fulfilling prophecy to expect total collapse and devastation because they are launching their operation to depopulate on schedule in the next decade, and 2012...
I agree, except for the fact that they're talking about finances. I'm talking about people. People are going to die. They're so callous to the whole notion of 6-7 billion people dying as long as they make their money and they have their cush bunkers, okay, with survival kits, that they don't care. Yeah, they've been planning for the economic collapse for 30 years, but they haven't been planning, and nor do they care about the populace, okay? So, you know, I mean, call me left-wing on that one. I'm right-wing on other things.
Well, let me back you up on something. I've confirmed with top construction companies that are listeners, some of which have been guests here, that every CIA high-level person, every person that's worth hundreds of millions or billions and in the upper echelon within the last 5 years have built bunkers everywhere and have bunkers underneath their houses and are totally freaked out. So I believe from things that they've said and done, they're looking at releasing airborne Ebola that's weaponized. It'll kill 99% of people. And
probably that'll be like the least of our worries. Trust me. I mean, that sounds horrible and it doesn't, but that'll be the least of our worries. And it's so funny that the 1% that ran the world before, after end of the world as we know it, will run it again. That's what freaks me out. So if we want to tax the rich, go ahead and tax the rich. That's what I say. Let them pay for some fair share of like giving us our last few years as we know it, because there will be survivors.
But see, that's the psychological...
And what do survivors do? They break into anarchy. They break into groups. They break into tribalism. And, so like gold and silver is going to hold you off from them? No. They'll just kill you and take your gold and silver.
Well, that's giving up. And look, then you can cash...
No, it's not giving up. It's not giving up because human beings will survive. And how do they survive? They band together. They make groups. They make gangs, which is why, like, I see the appeal of gangs amongst the youth today is because it gives them a sense of purpose. And it's the same thing that's going to happen, okay? Whether it's like a magnetic polar shift, a solar flare, or an asteroid that the government isn't telling us about. One or the other, there's going to be some crap hitting the fan coming up soon, okay? Coming up soon, one way or the other, okay? Like right now, I could see us like trying to build China into the main enemy. That's not our main enemy. Our main enemy is ourselves and our greed, because the 1% that runs it now and the 1% that will run it after the apocalypse will be the same people, and it's the same greed.
Yeah. Al Jourgensen?
Greed is the core of humanity, not like external sources.
Yeah, Al, just to be clear here, though, I believe that things are not going to be as bad as a lot of people think during 2012. It is going to be artificial, just like the collapse is designed. They have Warren Buffett and everybody come out.
Just like our debt ceiling, just like the Republicans make this an artificial crisis. Tell me greed doesn't rule this planet. Just tell me that. I want to hear that from your mouth.
Well,
tell me greed does not
I mean, that's
rule
like
this
saying,
planet.
tell me the sky isn't blue. But Al, that's not even what I'm saying here. The Republicans... the people holding it up are the Tea Party, who aren't fully informed, but they see us being completely bankrupted if we don't cut spending. Then they have all the billionaires out like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates saying, I don't pay hardly any taxes. Raise my taxes, but you get the tax plan. They're exempt offshore, and they're going after folks making $125,000 individually, $250,000 in a family. That's not rich, Al. With the
listen, man, I've got offshore accounts. I've got them. I've made my money in music. I'm ready to go. You know, I'm living good. I'm living large, but I'm worried about the rest of the populace. Okay, and so why don't you put a loophole for offshore accounts? Why don't you put a loophole, or not a loophole?
Get rid of it.
Close the loophole of offshore accounts and this and that to make this prosperous for the last few years.
All right, Al, stay there. We got to go to break. We're going to come right back after the break. Stay with us. Al from Ministries here.
On the march.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live. Al Jourgensen, of course, the founder of Ministry, is our guest for the rest of the hour. Then Bob Chapman coming up on the economy. look, we're having discussions during the breaks, and I kind of want to repeat that now here on air. And I'm like, Al, I understand the ultra-rich are avoiding almost all taxes, but it's the ultra-rich that are promoting, let's get the rich on all these TV shows. They're promoting this idea. Then they're going to bait and switch it in the tax plans they've put out and literally gang rape people making $250,000, $500,000, $1 million a year that actually is funding the economy. You got the head of his economic council, the head of GE, moving their X-ray factories to China. You've got General Motors with using billions to move its plants in the bailout to China and Brazil. This is globalism. And so all I'm saying is I understand, hey, the rich are basically exempt from taxes. All I'm saying is they're baiting and switching it. And if you look at the actual plans, not the rhetoric, it goes after the middle class. And so as Ron Paul has said, the Republican plan will bankrupt us down the road. And the Obama plan will, because none of them are talking about the $1,500 trillion the bankers created in fake derivatives that they got both parties, and the same thing in Greece and everywhere else, to sign on to. So I'm saying...
Okay, yeah. I agree with you about 75% there, too. But the problem is the Ron Paul plan, the Libertarian plan, so like Democrats and Republicans are both screwed, also doesn't take into effect... okay, I know you just had a segment on polar bears swimming across whatever and who cares and this and that. But I care in the sense that the entire eastern seaboard will be under 6 feet of water, and there'll be trillions of dollars lost in that when Greenland melts. Okay, so forget the polar bears. Let's just talk about facts here, okay? So I do agree. I'm basically a libertarian, but the point is that the first person like Rick Perry, the governor of Texas, okay, Mr. Secessionist, Mr. like, guns in every bar and, concealed weapons permits across the states. I have weapons, but I don't take them across state and I don't bring them to bars, for God's sake. But, illegal immigration, another big thing. Oh, we got to stop that. Yet, if we do that, then it doesn't drive the wage down of the middle class, and we don't have workers willing to do that. So the Republican Party is full of hypocrisy, okay? So Rick Perry, anti-immigration, anti-this, anti-that, but all those things like disaffect boards, which make money, the 1%ers, all right? They make money off it. So I'm sure there's a lot of pressure and back and forth in the Republican Party, which is why they can't even pass the Boehner bill right now.
But okay? Al, listen, Rick Perry was Al Gore's chief of staff in Texas. He was for forced inoculations. He passed sanctuary cities and then claimed he was trying to get rid of them. There's two Rick Perrys. There's the rhetoric of Rick Perry, just like there's the rhetoric of Obama, and then there's the real Rick Perry, there's the real Obama.
Well, what does it tell you? You know David Icke. Yes. What does that tell you? Politicians are the mouthpiece for the people in control, okay?
Yes.
So what does that tell you? I mean, what does that tell you that Obama says one thing, Perry says another thing? What does that tell you? Listen, I just watched the David Icke documentary, The Matrix, the other day, and you were mentioned on it. Do you know that?
Yeah, I mean, I know David. He's been on the show a lot.
All right. Well, David Icke, I agree with about 75% of him. And the same as you, okay? So we're not adversaries.
No, I know.
We're on the same path.
This is a good interview. Folks are glued right now. Listen, I want to talk about your political awakening, because you listen to stuff you guys did 20, 25 years ago. And, I mean, it is really politically sophisticated back when nobody was talking about world government, New World Order, all this stuff. I mean, what was your process of seeing the world or waking up, or were you born awake?
Well, it's very similar to David Icke, where he was a soccer star, and all I wanted to do was I wanted to ride rodeo. I was a bull rider. And I wanted to be a baseball player, but I tore up my knees, so then I went to bull riding. But something was nagging at me that something is not right here. Okay, something is not right, and it's not what CNN tells you, which is another point I have to make, which is so funny, that the Pentagon finally repeals Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and yet our media centers, whether it's Fox, CNN, or even MSNBC, is basically don't ask, don't tell. They don't ask the hard questions, and